This is Chief Warrant Officer 4 Vic Pinion, U.S. Navy retired, telling some stories of my naval career. Well, this one is a continuation of my first month or so aboard the Kennedy, John F. Kennedy CV-67. My third day at sea after we deployed from Norfolk, I was watching the bow Catapults crew finish up doing his pre-operational inspection. And the bow cat's chief, fine man, very conscientious, was doing shooting no loads on the catapult, which is the final test of the catapults as part of the pre-op inspection. And I noticed that they were not using the launch valve stroke timers. And I asked him about it. So we went down to the main control console and we looked at the records, and although they had recorded the measurements, but they did not have the normal times established. To make a long story short, because this is a very long story, because it lasted for my entire tour of duty aboard that ship, flapping with the problem of launch valve stroke timers not working, or the whole system not being a design problem. But the tech pubs required normal times to be established, and which required like shooting, I think it was 20 no loads and then getting the average times of them, and then those being your normal times, and then you had to fit within certain limits of them. Well, the catapult simply didn't fit within those limits almost ever for no loads. So I said, man, by the book, these catapults are down. Now we're deployed, we're off the coast of Cuba, we're in alert fighter carrier patrol status, meaning we need to put planes in the air. And this is serious. This is very serious. So I said, okay, when we do the pre-op check, well, maybe it was alert 5, maybe it was alert 30, because there's no threat to us right now. Anyway, I said, after we do the pre-op inspection in about 12 hours, if it doesn't fit within those limits, I'm going to talk with the division officer, and we're going to do some message traffic to bring this to the attention of higher authority, because we are required to do this. We don't have a choice but to do it. It's required by the Commander Naval Air Systems Command. Well, sure enough, we did that pre-op inspection in 12 hours or so, and sure enough, none of the 4 catapults fit within those limits. So I went to talk to the division officer. He came out of his tree. He was livid. He grabbed his phone, called the air boss. This new bosun Vic Pinion just downed all 4 cats. And the air boss says, why? And he said, well, he says the launch valve stroke timers are not working right. And he says, air boss told him, I want all the officers and chiefs of V2 division in the V2 office in 5 minutes, and I'll be there. Well, the boss, mini boss, both showed up there, and all the V2 officers and chiefs, and myself included, were there in the office. And the boss wanted an explanation, so I explained it to him. He says, we're off Cuba, and we're in alert status. You can't be downing all 4 cats. I said, well, boss, a decision needs to be made, you know. So he asked all of the officers and chiefs if they felt comfortable using these catapults with that. And every one of them, yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir. Got to me, I go, no, sir. I am not comfortable with it. It is illegal. We must get the authority of higher authority to use these catapults with this situation. So the boss says, okay, you go back down to your office and you draft a message to Naval Air Engineering Center and to Air Land, describing this situation and requesting authority to continue using these catapults. Meantime, we will continue using them. Okay, I drafted that message, and I told it short and sweet. I had drafted many messages. I knew how, and I had developed quite a reputation for doing that. because I did it more than any other maintenance officer in the fleet. But I'd done it on the Kennedy, I'd done it when I was at Comfair Westpac, and now I'm keeping higher authority advised of what we're doing, which is, in my opinion, professional. I'm not being a shit stirrer, I'm just being professional. The boss sees that message and he doesn't want the message to go. So he says, it's poorly drafted, go back and redraft it. So I went back and redrafted it, took it back to him, and several times of that. And finally, he demanded some things that just made it gobbledygook, didn't make sense. Then he sent me up to the captain with that. Well, I took my original message to the captain with that and I didn't show him the original yet. He looked at it and he said, Vic, what's wrong with the catapult? And I told him, well, why don't you say that? I said, I did in my first message. This is a product of the air boss. I'm not the drafter of the message. The air boss did it. He gave me a dirty look. You take this back to the air boss and you redraft it and then you bring it back. Roger that. So I took it back to air boss, told him the air boss didn't want it. He did not want that message to go. We're in alert 5 status. We're operating off Cuba and we're in alert 5 status. And it's like 2 a.m. A dark night. We're off the coast of Cuba and we were in alert 30. And the word would pass, now set the alert 15. And then the next breath, set the alert 5. And the next breath, launch the alert 5 fighters. Just about that fast. Well, in alert 30, the crew was in the rack, you know. The airplane's not manned up or nothing, you know, although it's parked on the catapult. Well, now we're hustling. So I'm running down the port catwalk looking for a launching officer on deck when I fell off into a hole, 13-step ladder going down to go underneath the Beepidemus radar mount. I fell off in there and broke my elbow and bent my right wrist back and my fingers back and hit my head and knocked me unconscious. When I regained consciousness, they had already launched the Alert 5 fighters and the ship's back down to just maintain its steerage at 5 knots or so. I made it to sick bay and they x-rayed, found my elbow was broken, both the upper and bottom, both knobs of the elbow had cracks in them. And they casted it up right under my chin, like so, with the thing around my neck, sling, and sent me back. Well, the chief didn't think that was so funny when I showed back up in the maintenance office. End of this story, y'all carry on.